Hello class, welcome to the week 6 material, and in this weekly unit we're going to be talking about Python functions, and we're going to be taking a look at several different types of Python functions that we can work with, and just sort of talk about the idea of a function and how exactly those actually work. So the first one that we're going to start off with is a function that is defined within our program, and it's something that we create ourselves. It's something that we have customized. And to start off with, the way that we set that up is we use this keyword or word, if you can call this a word, def. That's basically the character sequence or the quote unquote word that tells Python that we're about to create a function. And then after that, following that is a space and then the name of the function that we're going to create. And one of the nice things about Spider is you can see that when we go to type the name of the function, it bolds the name of the function for us. So it clearly tells us what the function is actually called when we go to type it out. And then after the name of the function is a set of parentheses, and these are actually very important. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what role these parentheses play a little bit later on. But make sure the parentheses are included here, otherwise things are not going to work the way you want it to, or you'll just start getting error messages. And then following the parentheses, we have another crucial colon that appears at the very end of that. And just like anything else that we have that ends in a colon, whether that be a loop or an if statement, the colon at the very end here on line 2 tells us that something needs to be indented directly below that. And the indentations, in the case of a function, the indentations tell Python what commands it should run when the function itself is told to run. So you can think of a function as a large collection or maybe a small collection of Python commands that it will run basically when you want it to. So at some point along your program, you'll have say a request to tell the program to look for a function called something and then tell it to actually run all the commands that are enclosed with it, or you tell it to basically do its thing. And that's sort of the setup that we're demonstrating here. So here we have just a simple function that we've defined, and we've called this my function. And right now, the only statement the only thing that the computer is actually going to do right now is it's just going to run this print statement that appears on line 3. So this function, very simple. All it does is just print out this sequence of characters here when we tell the function to run. Now, something that's very important to emphasize early on, and it's something that I will come back to in a little bit, just having the function defined, just having the function set up, actually does nothing whatsoever. The function is only something that the computer will act on if and only if you tell it to actually run. And that's where we get into what's on line 6 here. In order to tell the function to actually run, in order to tell a particular function to do its thing, you need to have something like what's on line 6 here. And the way you accomplish this is you type the name of the function that you want to run. Since there's only one function in this case, it would just be what's defined up here on line 2. So my function, including the capital F, that is just the name of the function. And the way I tell the computer to run that function, to tell that function to actually run all the commands that are considered to be part of it. So the way I get the computer to run all the indented statements that are below the function, that is included in the function, the way I tell it to run these indented statements that appear below the def is to tell the computer, I want this function to run, and I just simply type the name of that function. And also very important, when you tell the function to run, you must include the set of parentheses here. And we'll demonstrate some of the things that can happen if you start forgetting some of the finer scale details that I am emphasizing here. So the way works is the function gets declared, and then the computer is running through the lines and it sees, okay, tell my function to run. So it will actually stop right at line 6, go find this function, run everything that's considered to be part of the function. And again, the way we know what's part of the function is what's indented below it, just like with an if statement or a loop. So right at line 6, we're telling the computer, go find this function called my function, tell it to run. And then once it's done running that function, then it will proceed onward to anything that might appear below it. But just to verify that this actually does or resembles anything that I just mentioned, let's actually go ahead and just tell this program to run. So again, function is defined up here. We tell the function to run. In this case, there's only one command in the function here, what's on line 3. And again, we know what's in the function because this is indented below the function declaration here on line 2. So when the computer hits this on line 6, it's going to find this function, and then it's going to run whatever is included in the function. So if we want to get some verification that this is exactly what's going on, we can just simply run this program, and you can see it did in fact go up to this function here and ran what is on line 3. And I could also just change this print statement to something else, and you can see that it is in fact just printing out what's in here. So I just want to differentiate between that and say the function itself does not automatically print its name out when you call it. I just wanted to prove that is in fact the case. And something else I can do to also be a little bit illustrative here. So something else that you might want to keep in mind is order still matters when you're going to put commands into the function. So just like any other regular program, the statements that appear towards the top are something the computer is going to act on first, and then anything that appears below that will be executed or run towards the end. So in this case, when the function is told to run here, again, this command right here, specifically on line 7 now, is what's telling the function to run. So when we tell the function to run, it is first going to run what's on line 3. That's the first thing it's going to do, and then it's going to run what's on line 4. And if we want to get some verification of that, we can again run this program, and you can see it does in fact print out conjunction junction first, corresponding to this top line, and then what's your function will be run after it is done with the print statement above it. So order still matters when you're working with functions. And there's really no limit to what you can put in the function. So right now I'm just working with some simple print statements. I could also put a loop in the function. So I could say print this text out 10 times. And if you want to include a loop in the function, you'll see it's giving me a little error message there. In order to tell the program what is part of the loop, you again have to use the indentations here. So this first level of indentation tells the program, or tells Python, what statements are considered to be part of this function. And then this level of indentation, the second level of indentation, tells the computer what is to be included in the loop, which again, the loop is considered to be part of the function here. So again, just like before, this command, the specific command on line 8 is what's telling the function to run. The function goes up, the computer goes up here, starts running all the commands or the lines of code that appear in the function, which entails running this loop, which also entails running these print statements this many number of times. So we're going to get a lot of text in the console, but that's just to verify that you can in fact put for loops and even if statements in the function. So you could also put an if statement in here if you really wanted to. So let's kind of go ahead and reset that. And I want to sort of emphasize a few things that we brought up earlier. And one of the things I want to emphasize is the function. If you just have the function defined, so I'm actually going to delete this on line 7, just having the function declared and nothing else will do absolutely nothing at all if you tell the program to run. So right now I have the function defined, again, by what's on line 2 here, and I have some indented statements that are considered to be part of the function, but at no point during this program am I telling this function to actually run, and that's very important to keep in mind. Just having the function defined by itself will do nothing at all. You still need to, at some point, call the function or tell the function to run. The sort of technical term for that is calling the function. You still need to tell the function to do its thing at some point in your program. If you have the function and you have, say, 1,000 lines of code indented here to say that it's part of the function, you can hit this run button as many times as you want. It's never going to call that function until you put the command in that we described earlier. And so in order to get a function to run, you need to type the name of the function and again followed by an empty set of parentheses. And I'll also show you what happens if you forget these parentheses. So if you just type the name of the function without the parentheses afterwards, you'll again get the same result. You'll get a whole bunch of nothing appearing in the console. So make sure those parentheses are there in order for the function to actually run. Now you can see it actually behaves itself. And there's also no limit to how many times you can call a function. So I could say here on line 7, tell this function to run, which again entails printing out these running these indented statements. And then once it's done that, tell the function to run again, which again entails just running those indented statements there. And if I do that, you'll see that it does in fact tell the function to run once, hence the two print statements that we get here. And then we tell the function to run again, hence the two print statements that we get below that. So another thing that might be worth pointing out about functions is the same rules that come with naming variables also apply themselves to naming functions. So the first character has to be a letter. You can't put empty spaces in here without getting a syntax error. And uh, it's also a good idea to make your function sort of self-explanatory on what they do. So I could change this to something like print stuff, and I have to make sure I'm consistent about that. If I change the name of the function, then I also have to change what's on line 7 here. But you can see it still runs the exact same way. So there's nothing special about what you put here. It's just that's the way the computer knows what function is which. And if you have a program that has multiple different functions in it, then they all have to have their own distinct separate names. And when you tell each function to run, you still have to do what's on line 7 here. Type the name of the function followed by an empty set of parentheses, or a set of parentheses, not necessarily empty. That's actually something we'll talk about in the next segment, but just make sure that you have to, and also make sure this is not indented, because if I do this, then suddenly this command is part of the function as well, and then now I have nothing to tell the function to run. So make sure at some point if you have a function created in your program, make sure that at some point you are in fact telling the function to run. So one thing I'll also go ahead and demonstrate just to sort of wrap this up, just to prove that the flow that I described is in fact what's actually going on here. So the way that this works, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but I really want to verify this explicitly. So on line 6, so again, the program runs from the top down, so that means it creates this function here. All these indented statements are part of the function. Then it finds what's on line 6 here, which is just going to print out test1. Then it's going to find what's on line 7. And on line 7, I'm telling the program to find this function called print stuff. And by telling the function to find print stuff, I'm also, or telling the computer to find the function print stuff, I'm also telling it I want the computer to run everything that's below print stuff or indented below print stuff. So that means the computer is going to go up to here and start running these indented statements that appear below this bit on line 2. And then once it's done with that, and then and only then once it's done with that, will the computer proceed onward to anything that might appear below it. So the order in which this is going to run is first going to print out or execute this print statement. Then it's going to tell this function print stuff to do its thing, to run all the statements or commands that are part of the function. And then once it's done running all the stuff in the function, then and only then will it proceed to run what's on line 8. And we can verify that order by taking a look at the console. So this test1 does in fact match up with this print statement on line 6. These two print statements match up with what I put on line 7 here, telling this function to run. And then this bit matches up to what is on line 8. But that's going to do it for this first look at Python functions and how to set those up in Python. And in the next segment, we're going to talk a little bit more about the parentheses and what actually is going on with those parentheses. And also, we're going to talk about some of the stuff that we can do with those parentheses. So with that, I will see you all in the next segment.